Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled Mailbox Spam and Some Quick Googling. I've been receiving physical letters from an ISP for about 3 years now. This is a very large company. You wouldn't have to search too hard to figure out who, I'm sure. Junk mail is infuriating and one of my pet peeves. So wasteful and a waste of time, paper, and resources. Despite my multiple calls to customer service to be removed from this mailing list over the last 16 months, I still receive something once a week. Today, I come home to another piece, yet this time it has a name attached, and it's cleverly disguised to look like a personal letter. After calling customer service and voicing my complaints yet again, I think to myself, maybe I can find this guy whose name is on the letter. Wouldn't you know it, he's on LinkedIn, job title, job, and college history, every bit of it. He has a pretty unique name, so it wasn't as hard as it could have been. Since I'm a bit petty, I do some Googling, and what do you know? I find a phone number. I decide to give that number a call, and would you believe it, he picks up. He was startled and curious how I got his phone number, as I also would be if I were him. I told him my current ISP helped connect me to a website that had his information. He chuckled and was very understanding. I politely asked to be removed from their mailing list, he took my information, and followed up minutes later with a text confirming that I won't hear from their company again and to reach out if I receive anything more from them. Small victories. The next story is titled, Mock the Fact That I Have a Smartwatch and You Don't? I got something for you. I was at a meeting with some friends, enjoying a few drinks, and this guy started asking me why I had my Apple Watch. I thought it was an Android versus Apple thing, and I was feeling chill, so I just said that it matched my iPhone, and it was kind of a present. And then he said he didn't care about the brand, just the fact that it was a smartwatch. What can it do? And every time I said something like, I can read my texts and know who's calling without getting my phone, he would throw his old phone in my chest. He repeatedly asked what my watch could do, and every answer that I gave, however polite and far from arrogant, he would throw his old phone in my chest. Then, he asked what my watch could do, and thinking this was the last straw for me, I jokingly said it could tell the time, and he unfastened his wristwatch and chucked it. It hit my chin, but he laughed. So I just stood up, went to the wall, dismounted the wall clock, and threw it to his face, and said something like, "This can tell the time too. Wear it, why don't you?" I can't remember exactly, I was a little bit drunk. It wasn't really painful, but it was loud. I was scared, but I wasn't gonna let him see it. I looked him dead in the eye as if saying, "The F you gonna do?" And he just stayed there quiet. I went to the restroom to smile at myself in the mirror and give myself a high five. The next story is titled, Want to Steal My Customers? I'll point them right to you. I am a hairdresser that rents a booth in a salon, as do all the stylists that work there. The owner of the salon is one of my best friends, so after closing the salon that I operated for 20 years, I joined her team and am really happy. I have a wonderful clientele, with the exception of a few, which I'll get to in a bit, and get along great with my coworkers except one, Kate. She has a grating personality, and for the most part, I can just let her comments roll off my back. She doesn't have a clientele, which leads to her having way too much free time, which she uses by pestering the rest of us while we are with our clients and butting into conversations that should be private. Recently, I had 2 of my clients tell me that when they called for appointments, they were told that I didn't have time for them, and that Kate would give them a discount if they came in with her instead, but they would have to come in on a day when I wasn't there so that my feelings wouldn't get hurt. Well, that's a load of caw-caw, because everyone in the salon knows that if I don't have an opening for someone when they call, they are to take down the name so I can call them personally to work them in. When I confronted Kate about those instances, she just shrugged and said that I was too sensitive. And besides, I was too busy, so she was really just helping me out. On to the petty revenge. I have a few customers that I've been trying to get rid of for years. You know the ones, they are never happy, always late, don't tip, and generally a pain in the butt. I decided that if she wanted my customers so bad, I would feed her the ones that I wanted to get rid of anyway. So, when they had trouble getting in with me, I would tell them that I was booked out for months, but they would be really happy with Kate. She told me yesterday that she didn't know why all my idioty customers were her problem now. My days are better. It's a bit easier for my customers to book with me, and she is always in a bad mood for having to deal with unhappy customers so much of her day. Plus, a couple of my other coworkers have started doing the same. The next story is titled, Destroy My Childhood, Ruin My Chance at College, and Laugh When I Said I Was Homeless. Lol, cool, I'll ruin your ducking life. Backstory. My mother was a really crappy person. I have 4 other siblings. 1 older sister, 3 way younger, 3 different dads. Before I was born, I'm a male by the way, my oldest sister was taken away from my mother when she was a few months old because she tried to stab/slice the father of my sister while he was holding her. She lost custody and the dude left her. Older sister goes to live with her father's family in a different cue lil ol' me coming into this sexy world. My dad went to jail 2 to 3 years after I was born for a while. I rarely saw him. He's an alcoholic, if that matters. She was a single mother, but she made it work, and she worked hard. One of the bigger problems was that she took out all her aggression and hatred of my father on me, as well as work, stress, etc. She dealt with sexual abuse growing up, which I'm sure definitely affected her relationships and how she treated me as well. Anyways, cue me being abused from the age of 4 to 5 to about 17. Every day was hell. She was extremely strict, and her perspective was warped. She was also pretty big in stature and had a lot of strength. Examples of her being crappy. I've gotten beaten up badly once because her room was dirty. The dishes weren't washed and I got beaten soon as I got home, even if there weren't dishes when I left for school. If I walked too loud, I'd get my ass beat. She broke my nose for looking at her the wrong way on my 10th birthday, when she bought me a cake I was allergic to. It had peanuts. She knows I'm slightly allergic, but feigned ignorance. It was more or less every day or every other day. She used her fists, elbows, extension cords, hangers, chairs, canes, bats, etc. Whatever she could find, I was getting beaten with. I couldn't ever escape to my room for long because she would always call me every few minutes to get her things or to yell at me. She never drank or did drugs or anything. Whenever she was upset and I happened to be in front of her, she'd kick me down the stairs to make me hurry up. She's put a knife to my neck before and had to be forcibly stopped by her BF of the time. Burned my Christmas presents from other people. She didn't get me anything that year. And just other really crappy things. The only thing I will say, she tried really hard to make up for it with video games and electronics, etc. It didn't make a difference to me, though. It never helped. She controlled most aspects of my life. I got by with little petty revenges. Peeing in the Lipton iced tea she drank. Rubbing her forks and spoons between my butt cheeks before I served her dinner. Ignoring her screams to help when she had kidney stones. How the F am I supposed to help anyways? But by the time I got to high school, I turned to alcohol. I resented her, and the negative atmosphere affected who I was as a person. I started to be cold and uncaring. Calculated. She started kicking me out every few months, telling me to find somewhere else to live by age 15. She sent me away to a different country for a year and tried to keep my passport, but I made it back to the US with the help of the embassy and my stepfather. She'd already left by that time and found some other dude. I came back senior year with no credits for the prior grade, which ended with me getting a GED. I spent most of the time I could with my best friend and started working crappy jobs. I was terrible at saving, as I had accumulated loads of crappy habits while growing up, so it didn't make much difference. She eventually told me that if I went to college, I would always have a place to live until I finished. Cue my first 2 semesters at a 2-year college. I maintained a 3.7-ish GPA. My teachers loved me, and it was my escape. Towards the end of my second semester, during finals, I came home late one night around 10 p.m., and my mother yanks the door open, screaming in my face, asking when I'll move out. I'm slightly drunk and decide to completely ignore her and walk to my room. If I opened my mouth, that day would be the day I blew up and cursed her out. I've rarely ever raised my voice at her because it never ended well. Now, at this point, I'm 19, and I've been doing school full-time with no savings. I'm also fairly fit and could easily take my mom at this point. Never laid a hand on her or any woman. I hate violence. I get to my room, she rips my door open and starts yelling. I say nothing and stare at her. She walks away and called the police on me, saying she thought I'd murder her and my younger siblings. I don't know where the duck she got that idea from, as she's the one who's nearly killed me many times. I packed everything into a duffel bag and left 5 minutes afterwards. I failed all of my finals because I couldn't make it to my school. Things kinda spiraled, and the next 2 to 3 years were me on and off homeless. I survived the best I could in a big city with no college degree and made a lot of crappy choices due to my crappy habits. Eventually, I found a profitable hobby that gave me meaning, and through that, I started to work my way up. Got my own apartment, had a full-time job, and did my hobby on the side. I hadn't kept up contact with my mother at all, but my younger sister, who was old enough to have a phone, found me on social media, so I saw photos and such. She didn't have it anywhere near as bad, but she did get beaten occasionally. My mother reached out via email, all smiles, asking how I've been. Now guys, I've always been envious of the relationship most people have with their mom, so I gave her a chance and gave her a call. We talked for a few minutes and everything was civil and seemed like things would go okay. But then, she asked me what I've been up to for the last few years, and I told her honestly that I was homeless for a while and struggled a lot after what she did to me, but I worked my way out of it. She literally laughs. She laughed for a few seconds in a very condescending kind of chuckle, and then said, "I never did a thing to you, so you don't know what abuse is. It's your own damn fault you were homeless. So how about you?" But by that point, I hung up. I was speechless and fuming. I don't know what abuse is? Okay, idiot. I've spent too ducking long letting you destroy my sanity. Now is the time. There was a few things my mother didn't know. One, I knew for a fact that current well-paying job she had was gotten on lies, as she never got her college degree and lied about it on her resume. Two, I had access to all of her email accounts and cloud storage accounts since I was the one that set them up when I was younger, and she never changes her passwords. Lastly, she definitely wasn't aware that from 13 years old and on to the last time she hit me, I took photos of all my bruises, marks, wounds, bloody noses, saving them to my computer and then Google Drive. On top of that, my little sister has been sending me photos via social media of the bruises she got from my mom. The first thing I did was compile all of those photos/videos into one folder. I then reached out to CPS in my city and explained that my siblings were being abused, how I was abused in the past, and that I had mountains of proof. Since I've called the cops on my mother before, and the thing that happened with my older sister, there was immediately a home visit. They arrived almost a day later with the police, and coincidentally, my mother was literally in the process of beating my younger sister when they were knocking. Cue an emergency removal of all my siblings from the house. And my mother getting arrested, though she was released hours later. I was getting a day-to-day play-by-play because my mother's best friend is a blabbermouth, and everything my mother said she told her son, who relayed it to me without either of their knowledge. I sent CPS all the evidence, and there's a legit case against my mother now. The next day, I emailed and then called up her job to inform them that she had lied about having a very necessary college degree, as well as current events in her life, which sparked a background check. She was fired days later. Say adios to $75,000 and a blacklist in the only industry you know how to work. I then spitefully deleted every cloud account and email address I ever made for her, which was all of them, which I'm sure will make keeping up with a lot of bills, etc. nearly impossible. I then anonymously reported her to the IRS because of the tax fraud she committed for years by claiming people's children that weren't hers, with a lot of detailed information since I lived with her while she did it. So now, my mother lost all her kids and her job. I'm meeting with a caseworker from CPS next week to talk more about what happens moving forward, but I do know they're not going back. I don't know how she's going to pay her mortgage now and survive. I'm sure she's going to get a call from the IRS who will be looking for a few $1,000s she owes them. She also has to go back to court in a few months. Not exactly sure what she was charged with, but I'll update when I find out how everything turns out. The last story is titled, Grandfather's Revenge of Dumb Rowdy Teenagers. I was told this story a couple times. This happened about 50 years ago. Some kids in town thought it was hilarious to drive their trucks and crash into everyone's trash cans on trash night. Obviously, this would cause everyone's trash to go everywhere and make a huge mess. This happened once to Grandpa, and he was firm on it never happening again. So, the next week, he put the trash can at the road and put several cinder blocks at the bottom, and then filled the rest of the trash can with water. Just for size comparison, these are those bulky, big black trash cans that last forever. So, he set his trap and waited. That night, a loud bang was heard. The guy's truck was basically destroyed on impact. It never happened again, lol. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see